Hello, dear teacher. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the second International Conference TDC 2020. It is an honor today to accompany you, since I will be your host. My name is Jonathan Peña. I'm an Icpna coordinator. Today, we'll have a spectacular speaker in which will be divided into two blocks. The first block, we can find Eugenia Dell'osa. She is from Buenos Aires. Débora Dichiara, she's from Rosario, Santa Fe. And finally, we can find our dear teacher, David White. Thank you for you here today with us. We appreciate the time that you take to learn more every day and continue in the struggle daily and learning. Hey, dear teacher, important. Remember also that to obtain the certificates to attend, you must participate at least 4 conferences of the 5 that we are offering in total. Remember that it's important that you are registered for the event to access the certificate of attendance. Those who have not yet registered for the attendance can register in the comments link. Good morning and welcome one more time. Thank you one more time to be here, dear teachers. Please, okay, don't forget to register to this attending event. It is important, okay? I'm Jonathan Peña. I'm the host today for you. Remember that. So welcome, and we're happy to be here with us to attend this amazing TDC conference 2020. Thank you one more time, and we wait for the rest of the speaker. Thank you and good morning. And also, we can find an important themes today, dear teachers, because we have to attend an amazing speaker, try to tell us an important information, an important knowledge that they share with us. So thank you one more time to be here, and we have to wait. Hello, dear teacher. Hello one more time. Hello and good morning. And welcome to the second International Conference TDC 2020. It is an honor today to accompany you, since I'll be your host today. My name is Jonathan Peña. I'm an Icpna coordinator. Today, we'll have a spectacular speaker in which we divide into 2 blocks. In the first block, we can find Eugenia Dell'osa. She's from Argentina. Next one, we can find Débora Dichiara. She's from Rosario, Santa Fe. And finally, we can find our dear teacher, David White. This is the blocks for the morning. Thank you for stay with us, teachers. We appreciate the time that you take to learn more every day and continue in the struggle of daily learning. Remember, dear teacher, important. Remember also that obtain the certificate of attend, you must participate at least 4 conferences of the 5 we are offering in total. Remember that it's important that you are registered for the event to access certificate of attend. Those who have not yet registered for this event can register in the comments links. Good morning to all professors attending the TDC 2020 PIURA International, organized by Icpna Grau Radio. en SBS Librería Internacional. This year in 100% digital format, which also allow us to have connected fellow teachers from different regions of the country and even from neighboring countries. On a fete on Icpna Grau region and SBS Librería Internacional, we would like to thank you for your attendance at this event and above and the acknowledge to wonderful work that teachers have developed during this challenging year 2020. As every year, we want to be part of the constant updating work carried out by English teachers and continue giving their students more and better reason to continue learning the language that opens the door of the world. Here's a word from our executive director, Mr. Lita Ramírez Mesones.
Buenos días, damas y caballeros. Distinguida plana docente del Instituto Cultural Peruano Norteamericano, profesores invitados de las regiones de Piura y Tumbes. Para mí es muy grato darles la cordial bienvenida a la segunda conferencia internacional académica organizada por Special Book Service SBS en coalianza académica con el Instituto Cultural Peruano Norteamericano Región Grau. Me gustaría saludar y expresar un agradecimiento a los ponentes de esta conferencia de las empresas Pearson Education, National Geographic y el Cultural de Trujillo, que han aceptado compartir con nosotros sus conocimientos y experiencia sobre el tema en el transcurso de hoy día. Una muy especial bienvenida y agradecimiento a Miss Rachel Martins, fellow de Estados Unidos de Norteamérica, que nos acompañará con su exposición. El objetivo de esta conferencia es la mejora y enriquecimiento de la modalidad de enseñanza virtual de la educación de la lengua inglesa, enseñanza virtual que, como ustedes saben, se vale de la tecnología, el Internet y las herramientas del mundo online. Es por esto que a nuestros docentes, ¿no?, los exhorto a aprovechar al máximo los conocimientos y experiencias que serán impartidas por los ponentes, incrementando así sus capacidades y competencias en la enseñanza del idioma inglés. Por lo que damos por inaugurado el evento. Muchas gracias y que Dios los bendiga.
Thank you for your words, Ms. Lita. Below we present a brief overview of the work carried out by Icpna Grau region in the northern region of Peru. And now we will see the spectacular video about our dear institution, Icpna Grau region. Go ahead, team.
Icpna Región Grau es un instituto dedicado a la enseñanza del inglés y difusión de la cultura peruano-americana en nuestro país, contando con una infraestructura moderna que cuenta con los mejores equipos técnicos y humanos. Desde 1991, Icpna Región Grau se ha convertido en un referente de la enseñanza del inglés en nuestra región, donde contamos ya con 2 edificios en la ciudad de Piura y 2 filiales en las ciudades de Sullana y Talara, además de grupos de estudios en Catacaos, Paitas, Chulucanas y Tumbes. El inglés es el único idioma que compartimos y donde concentramos todo nuestro esfuerzo para poderles brindar las mejores clases. La calidad de enseñanza es nuestra prioridad y nuestro compromiso es que aprendas el inglés en un entorno cultural, actual y dinámico. Audio. Tenemos el reconocimiento y respaldo de Habla, Asociación de Binacionales de Latinoamérica y de American Space, reconocimiento entregado por el Departamento de Estado de la Embajada de los Estados Unidos, como espacio americano de difusión de la cultura peruano-americana. Además, somos un centro autorizado para la elaboración de los exámenes internacionales de la Universidad de Michigan de los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. El mundo ha cambiado y nos hemos adaptado a la nueva normalidad, brindando nuestros servicios de manera virtual sin perder la calidad de enseñanza que nos caracteriza. En la región Grau, 29 años contigo, rumbo al bicentenario.
Thank you very much, team, for this amazing video. Now, I invite you to know a little more about our host partner of the SBS Librería Internacional. Even through this short video, please, let's go, team.
En SBS Librería Internacional estamos comprometidos con la educación. Brindamos materiales de calidad que abarcan las más diversas áreas del conocimiento humano en formatos físicos y digitales. Nuestra historia comienza hace 24 años, de la mano de nuestros líderes fundadores. Somos parte del grupo SBS Internacional con sedes en Argentina, Brasil, Bolivia y Perú. SBS Librería Internacional crece cada día desde 1996. Hoy somos una de las cadenas más grandes en Sudamérica, orientada a producir y distribuir libros y materiales especializados en la enseñanza de idiomas. Nuestro propósito es contribuir en el quehacer educativo, profesional y cultural de nuestra comunidad. Nuestra propuesta de valor, orientada siempre al cliente, a la innovación y a la educación, nos ha permitido posicionarnos como una empresa que no solo facilita contenidos en diferentes idiomas a nuestros usuarios, sino que también nos convierte en un espacio donde se promueve el desarrollo profesional de los docentes, la generación y difusión de eventos académicos y culturales, convirtiéndonos así no solo en un lugar donde se pueda adquirir el libro deseado, sino en un espacio para estar, compartir y aprender. Con la finalidad de satisfacer los requerimientos de nuestros clientes y del mercado editorial, contamos con 16 librerías en todo el país y una renovada librería online en las que presentamos la más destacada producción e innovación editorial nacional e internacional. Somos conscientes de la repercusión de la tecnología en todo ámbito del conocimiento y la recreación, y por ello, SBS Online se posiciona como un potente canal de búsqueda y adquisición de material educativo y recreativo que permite acercar a nuestros clientes miles de títulos a pocos clics de distancia y desde la comodidad de su hogar. Nuestra propuesta editorial contiene materiales y contenidos por áreas temáticas, la enseñanza y aprendizaje de los idiomas inglés, portugués, francés, italiano, español, alemán, entre otros. La formación educativa y profesional cuenta con publicaciones especializadas, académicas y técnicas, libros de interés general con las últimas tendencias de la industria editorial, así como bibliografía clásica e imprescindible. Por todo este desarrollo e innovación corporativa, queremos compartir nuestra conmemoración. En este marco consolidamos nuestra presencia en Perú con librerías ubicadas estratégicamente en los departamentos de Lima, Cusco, Arequipa, Trujillo, Piura, Chiclayo, Iquitos, Huancayo. La librería SBS Online, servicios de delivery a nivel nacional, presencia en ferias virtuales del libro, así como presentaciones, streamings, conferencias online, concursos, promociones y sorteos, entre otras actividades. SBS Librería Internacional. Soluciones para quien enseña y para quien aprende.
Thanks a lot, team. It was an amazing video. So, to start today's presentation, I've been by welcoming to a Pearson education publisher. Thank you for your participating Pearson team as every year. Pearson is a renowned publisher in Peru and the world. And to learn a little more about them, I invite you to watch this video about Pearson education. Let's go, team. Wow, wonderful video, team. Thanks, Pearson. Now we are to introduce our first speaker this morning, guys. Renowned international speaker Eugenia Dell'osa with the theme Empowering Young Learners Through STEAM. Eugenia Dell'osa graduated in Buenos Aires. She has worked with PBL, World Language and Process Drama. She ran her language school for babies and BYL. She is currently a freelance educational consultant, material designer, and teacher trainer. She provides teachers with handouts, tools, and practical strategies from the real experiences. She has participated in conferences and virtual events along the country and also in Chile, Paraguay, Bolivia, Mexico, Peru, and United Kingdom. She is deputy head the bilingual kindergarten. Welcome to TDC, Eugenia.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Thank you very much for this introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today. And first of all, I have to mention that going back to Peru, at least virtually, is such a pleasure for me. It's a lovely country, and I had a great time with lots of teachers there last year. So thank you for inviting me. Here I am. And today we're going to talk about empowering young learners through STEAM. First of all, we need to make it very clear what young learners mean for us. We're going to concentrate on kids in kindergarten and the very first years at primary school. And let's discover together what STEAM is. Before starting formally this presentation, I would like to thank Pearson for making this possible, for connecting us, me and you teachers. And I would also like to mention that you can get this presentation, and I will tell you why at the end of the of this talk. So you do not need to take photos or write down. I just want you to enjoy it. If you want to have a copy of this presentation, you need to contact me. You will have the results at the end. Okay, so here we are, empowering very young learners or young learners through STEAM. This is what I want to think about first of all. This is a famous phrase, a famous quote from Steve Jobs, and it starts with, everybody think. Can you use the words surrounding this this bubble of speech to make a proper sentence? Everybody what to think? Can I give you 30 seconds? Perhaps you can use the comments. It talks about computers, it talks about learning. There is a program, teaches how to. What do you think? If there are any comments, you can leave them on the chat. But if not, I will give you a hint. Everybody should what? Let's see. Everybody should learn to program a computer because it teaches you how to think. And this is the point. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're not just going to talk about technology, because if we think of Steve Jobs, the first thing that comes to our mind is technology. We're not only talking about technology. We're going to talk about STEAM. We're going to talk about creative thinking, critical thinking, communication, dealing with failure, curiosity, collaboration. These are things that are very much related to the way we need to plan our teaching. So we're talking about acronyms, we're talking about STEAM, and here I am talking about ELA, English Language Arts, because we are teaching a language. It is not that we are using STEAM in our native language. We are using STEAM in a second language classroom. So let's see how to combine these two things together. I can't help reading this quote by Ken Robinson because it is very much related to my aim of the talk today. And Ken Robinson said, our task is to educate their whole being, our students' whole being, so that they can face the future. We teachers may not see the future or our students' future, but they will, and our job is to help them make something of it. What's the point here? We need to help our students to learn how to think, and this is what STEAM is about. What is STEAM education? STEAM education is an approach to learning that uses science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. The idea is to use these different areas and to combine them into our lesson. So these are the access points for guiding student inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking. So there is a lot of thinking involved in our presentation today. We're going to combine these different disciplines. As we said, we have science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. But STEAM has different points and different stages and different steps to cover. So, of course, we're going to have a general idea of this theory because then we're going to have lots of practical ideas. But we need to have this focus. We're going to focus on a certain topic, a certain problem, and an essential question. We're going to start to work on this in detail. So we will start observing and documenting what we are doing. Discovery is giving our students the chance to do some research and to learn of a certain topic. Application, we're going to give them hints and we're going to help them and guide them on how to create their own version of something. Presentation, they will share their solutions, so they will be able to talk about all the previous work they've done in points 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And then link. They're going to link ideas. They're going to help each other, one another, or in different groups to see how they can all improve this and learn together. So these are like the steps STEAM requires for you to have a great lesson. But let's go into practice. I chose this topic. I chose talking about plants. This is something you can do in kindergarten, you can do with the first cycle in primary, and of course later on in their education. But this is something they're interested in. What happens when you plant a seed? So we can start by choosing a book, a story. In this case, I chose From Seed to Plant by Gail Gibbons. And you read the story to them. You read the story. This story is factual because you have lots of facts about how plants work, how plants grow. And we're talking about science here, which is the first letter in STEAM. So what happens with this? We're getting them interested in the topic because they are surrounded by plants. They know what plants are, but we are getting them into topic just by a story. So we're going to ask them, how much do you know about plants? What are plants and flowers the same? We're going to get them curious about this. But then we're going to think of a challenge. And this is the key point in STEAM. Give them something to work on with a long objective, with a long-term aim. And in this case, well, here we have a little more theory. A STEAM challenge is an open-ended challenge that requires students to solve a problem with materials you provide. So remember, we are going to go through all of our project, all of our STEAM project, thinking of this challenge. But in order to do this, we need to concentrate on the contents we want them to work on. So what I love is relating my interests to my students. So here I brought my favorite flower, because my favorite plant here, this picture was taken from my own balcony. And as the story mentions birds and how birds connect to plants, I took a picture of a hummingbird that usually visits my garden. So what am I doing? I am connecting my students, my content with a real world, because in my world, there are plants. In my garden, there are plants. In my garden, there is always a beautiful hummingbird that comes to visit me. So I am telling them what we are doing right now, or from now on, from a story we read and bringing real pictures, I am connecting them to the real world. We're going to talk about something real. So what about this science in STEAM? Remember that our topic was plants and how plants grow. But I thought of a question. And the question is, can you build the different parts of a flower? Can you watch a flower grow? Can we do that? Yes, of course we can. So we said we needed to go part by part, and there was a point, there was a stage in STEAM where we needed to document what we are doing. So in order to document, we need to observe. Can you see the pictures here? Can you see the plants and the different parts? Can you see the magnifying glass? Can you see the tweezers? We are using different elements, but these are everyday elements that we bring into the class, and we want them to watch and observe. If you go into the pictures in detail, you can see the roots, you can see the stem in the plant, you can see the flower and the leaves. So what we are going to give our students is the possibility to observe real material, to observe the real thing, the plant. Of course, this can be done in the classroom in a face-to-face situation, or it can also be done at home. For young learners, you need parents' help, but in this virtual education we are having or suffering from today, we can have parents' help to deal with this. You can see the journal there, my plant journal, where they write what they observe. If they are not literate yet, if they cannot read or write, you can ask them to draw and identify, and they are keeping record of what they've been learning. Now, I chose two different scenarios here. Can you see the pictures? One where you can see the land and the grass there on top, another one, which is a clip art, an image, an illustration of a garden. Can you think a way of having students representing plants and their parts and how they grow there? Can they draw there? Perhaps with some special pencils or markers they can. What else can you use, or can you help them? What other materials can you choose to deal with this? You can use Play-Doh. You can use the real plant if they treat it with care. The one you have there on a tray can be placed here and represent how it grows, or which are the parts that go below the land and which are the ones that grow above. Okay, so the idea is use your imagination to work with them on the different things you can improve there. It is essential to have the materials clear, because you will see that in each slide of the presentation, the materials are named. What about growing your own plants? What about having this jar we have with some cotton inside and we put the seed? Is this possible to have in your English class? Yes, of course. Which is the language you're using here? What is it that you are teaching? You're teaching the real word. You're teaching science. You're inviting your students to be participants of their own learning process, and you're inviting them to keep record, to evidence, to experience this from a different point of view. So here it says YouTube, science, real stuff. Why? Because you can look for videos, factual videos, kind of documentals, and show them the process of the growing seed in order to this seed to turn into a big plant. So far, we've been dealing with science. Which are the materials you need for the growing seed in the jar? You need a jar, you need the seed, you need some cotton. What else? You need air, you need light, and you need water. You need to tell your students, to teach your students how to create this. You can show this with a video. You show it with your own, and you give them the chance to wait and to make hypotheses on what is going to happen. Perhaps with very young students, you only have the traditional jar, but then you can have different experiments where you cover the light and see what happens, where you put it, you wrap it in a plastic bag, whether it is quicker or not. You leave it inside or outside with sunlight or not. So there are many things, and this is what we need to do. We need to trigger curiosity. But when talking about plants, can we relate this to arts too? Yes. Have you ever seen flowers on a traditional painting, a very well-known painting? Look at those. So can we talk about the painters here? Yes. Can we talk about where these paintings were painted, where these pieces of art were created? Yes. Can we have Play-Doh to represent the different parts of a flower or a plant? Yes. So look at the different materials we use here, and they are working with their hands. They are creating their own flower. And as you have already worked with the different parts of the plant and the different parts of the flower, you can start labeling them too. So we're combining science and arts here together. And arts in the sense of creating, and arts in the sense of analyzing pieces of well-known pictures, traditional paintings we've seen in so many books, perhaps in real life too. And we're connecting real life again to what is happening in the classroom. What about maths? Because we've dealt with science, arts, maths. Can you see these wooden blocks? Can we give our students a model for them to copy? What are we dealing with here? We're dealing with shapes. We're dealing with the logical mathematical intelligence, the reasoning of what is happening and what do I need to do. And we will see that this has lots of things to do. We will analyze this in a minute. So here we had maths. When we are creating, when we are analyzing shapes, we are counting blocks and different objects. We are creating patterns. We are designing by colors. And what happens with technology? Can we put technology into this? Computational thinking is key here. It is the key point on basically talking about Ken Robinson's quote and what we said at the very beginning of Steve Jobs. We're dealing with technology, and technology and computational thinking talks about 4 different pillars it has. It has decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, and algorithms as the key elements of computational thinking. Computational thinking is the key. Why? Because we are giving them the chance to think in a different way. We are giving them the chance of thinking to create something for the future. We are giving them the chance to think in a way that they will be prepared for future jobs. Now, these 4 things, pillars I mentioned, decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, and algorithms, are defined here where it says finding commonly used solutions to repeated problems, steps you follow to solve a problem, recognizing the problem and leaving details aside, breaking problems into small pieces. Do you think you can take 10 seconds to join? What is decomposition? Is it finding commonly used solutions to repeated problems? What is pattern recognition? Let's see, 30 seconds for that. And are you ready for the solution? Here it goes. We said that talking about computational thinking, there are 4 pillars, 4 basics to take into account. Decomposition is breaking problems into small pieces. What are those? Puzzles, perhaps? So we are familiar with these things. We use puzzles in our classes, and we need to use them more. Pattern recognition, finding commonly used solutions to repeated problems. What do I do to solve this? To solve this puzzle I mentioned before. Do I start by the frame of the password and I look for the edges, the limits of the password, of the puzzle? What about algorithms? Algorithms are the different steps you follow to solve a problem. When you brush your teeth in the morning, what do you do first? You take the toothbrush and no toothpaste? Or is there a pattern you need to follow? That's an algorithm. We do it unconsciously. But what I want to try to show you is that we are having all of these in our everyday classes. The thing is that we need to become aware of these and start exploiting them in our class. Abstraction, recognizing the problem and leaving details aside. So we will see different things on how to do this. What about engineering? We talked about science, we talked about technology, we talked about arts and maths. Engineering, we are going to analyze the life cycle of a plant, and we know that there are different parts, and we need to wait, and we need to see how these different parts, each of these has a proper moment to be analyzed. So what happens with engineering? What happens with building blocks? What happens with creating this pattern? And I have the same amounts of blocks, and now I have to create and copy it. What happens in your kids' minds when they need to do this? Lots of this I mentioned before is happening there. There is a QR code here. You can grab your cell phones if you want and scan it, and this will take you to the link we have here below. This link takes you to the jigsaw, the puzzle, for the picture of the life cycle of plants. So what I did was create a jigsaw, a puzzle, from this same picture for you to have. Is this something you can do with your students? Yes. Is this something you can do on an online class? Yes. What is it that you're going to do? You're going to provide them with, in this case, I'm talking about plants. I give them the picture. We discuss the picture. We discuss the different parts. And then I ask them for homework to do at home. I send them the link to solve this puzzle. What we are doing is working on the same information. Again, we are dealing about plants. We are talking about the different parts of the plant. We are talking about the life cycle of plants. And what I am giving them is the same information to solve using different computational thinking strategies. Which were the ones we mentioned before? Sorry. Here we are. What is it that we are doing with this? Pattern recognition. They need to see how to solve this. We are decomposing. What we are doing is breaking problems into small pieces to become to the whole piece of the puzzle again. So what we are doing is dealing with English, because we're dealing the whole of our lessons in English. We're going to use the simple present to talk about how plants grow, because this is factual information. And we're helping them with the way they think. We are helping them get their thinking in a different way, get to the information in a different way. Related to engineering is building and using blocks. You can see different kinds of blocks here, wooden blocks, Lego or Duplo or whatever brand you want to call them, but these are plastic or wooden blocks that you have them in different sizes. And my phrase here is never underestimate the power of a set of blocks. Why? These are some of the reasons why you should provide young learners with blocks. In my personal experience as a mom, I could see my daughters use blocks a lot. Hasn't it ever happened to you having or at least in my house it happened, we had a big block which was flat, but we used to have it as the base for other blocks, which 2 or 3 of them together were a cell phone, and they have been a cell phone for 2 or 3 years at home when I had toddlers. So we are using a very simple toy to trigger, to help them use their imagination, to self-express, because they are expressing their own ideas. They have to solve what to do with this and how to build a tower. So they will know that the height of the tower we need to be restricted or need to be limited, or to prevent it from falling. We need to leave them alone playing with blocks. There is a lot of make-believe in there. Mathematics, they need to think of how many blocks are allowed in this small piece, how many of these set into this. Physical development motor skills, creativity, science, self-esteem, the ability of knowing they can do it. Personal, social, and emotional development, it is sharing with others what they can build together. You can have micro minis, tiny pieces of blocks, and you can have huge blocks to work in teams and to build together. Communication and literacy. These are only some of the benefits this has. So I strongly recommend you start taking these pieces of advice. What happens when we talk about STEAM as independent lessons? What happens when you say, okay, I cannot work with STEAM the whole time. I have a book to cover. So think of different spots you can have in your lesson to work with STEAM. For example, you can make fake snow with some, with some shaving cream and some cornstarch. So we can help them create. And we're having science experiments in class. So when we deal with the weather, when you say, what's the weather like today? We can see it is sunny. We can see it is cloudy. You have your props. You use your cloud. But what about snow? And one day you come up with the idea, can we create some snow? So we are helping them with this challenge or question. Can I create some snow? Can I make some fake snow? And here you have the recipe on how to do it. Make a rainbow. Has it ever happened to you that there is some reflection with the sun in the classroom and they start like, wow, what's that? Can we create fake rainbows? Yes. And here you have the recipe. So what are you going to do? You're going to find a way with them to create something, but you're not going to give them the solution. You're going to start, hey, what happens if I place my yellow glass through sunlight? What is it that I do? What happens with the light? So let's create a rainbow here. What about giving directions? This is a topic I do not like teaching. So I found this site. It is code.org, where you can work with lots of coding and computational thinking. But in this case, that's why I invite you to ask me for this handout, because you have the link to work through computational thinking online through Minecraft. If you are teaching young learners, you know they love online games. And in this case, they have to follow patterns. This go forward, go backwards, turn right, turn left for the giving directions concepts, but with computational thinking. So we are helping them build this computational thinking skill they will need in the future. What about sequencing, which is another computational thinking skill? What happens if I bring this picture and I say, oh, my picture is not in order. Can you help me put it in order? We're sequencing. We are analyzing part by part of this picture. So here you have 4 ideas that you can use in your lessons, and you connect them to what you are teaching. And these are STEAM lessons in your everyday teaching. You can use them once a week, once a month. The idea is to talk on questions, to ask, to trigger this curiosity, and to think of, the teacher thinks of a problem, but she invites students to look for solutions. The idea is the teacher is the one who provides the problem and invites them to think of different solutions. What are we doing? We are generating curiosity here. We are inviting them to think and to provide us with their own ideas that perhaps are absolutely different from the solutions we thought of as our final aim. So I am inviting you to start trusting on your students' ability to use their imagination, their creativity, and the skills they have as young learners. So think of questions, allow them, use more questions. What do you think will happen here? I wonder, which is the result of this? What do you see? What do you wonder? What is it that you are thinking? What do you think might happen if? And we are talking about this if and then. If I put this here, then this will be the result. So, is STEAM suitable for very young learners? Yes, it is. If you think of the baby there working with her own picture, and you see her face, and on the other picture, the parts of the face are missing. So what do? What we do is we give them the chance to follow the face pattern, because our faces are patterns. We have 2 eyes, we have 1 nose, 1 mouth. So she needs to put them in order. What happens with creating patterns with different emotions? We have different dice there. Can you see the dice? So you roll the dice and they have to follow the pattern and follow the sequence, because the die says something that they have to transfer into the face they are creating. Can you see those egg containers? This reminds me of Tetris. When I was a teenager, I used to play Tetris. The only game I liked was Tetris. So I built this reasoning of putting pieces together. You can do this. You can create this with your students and help them solve it. Of course, you're not going to start with very young learners with 20 pieces to cover this egg container, but this is something they can do at home. And I will tell you, they will love it. They like creating their own material and using it. Look at the others those are kind of different pasta for kids, pasted on this wooden stick, an ice cream stick. And what are they doing? They are counting. We're using maths there, but arts too. They're using their hands. They're using their motor skills. There are fine motor skills to deal with this. Now, can we work with STEAM with a book? Yes, we can. Pearson has just released a new series called Little Stars, where STEAM is presented in different parts of the units. For example, here we have, can we ask, and this is for very young learners, this is pre-primary school, can we ask them to follow the pattern? What can they do? You can have, this is supposed to do with finger paint. So we invite them to use their fingers to recreate the same pattern. This sounds easy peasy for us. This seems to be really easy, but we're talking about 3 or 4-year-olds to deal with this. And they need to go and grab the green paint and to paste and seal their finger there below the green paint. Now, Pearson suggests a whole unit where one of the activities is planned on STEAM and a whole lesson on this. Here you can see a copy of the teacher's material for this lesson, where you have other ideas provided for your students, where you have different follow-up ideas to go on working with STEAM based on the same concept of sequencing and patterns. So you will have a challenge in each unit. Some more STEAM ideas here. I loved my unit about penguins. So I chose a story about penguins, as I said. The idea was to work on a story to present and introduce my project. And then this book was about penguins. This story was about penguins. And penguins are animals, at least in Buenos Aires, kids know about, but we can't see a penguin every day. So we started investigating about penguins. And I related this to maths because we worked with shapes and we made penguins out of different circles. So I gave them the circles and they had to create their own penguins following and sequencing and imitating the pattern they had. Then we analyzed the different parts of the penguin and the different body parts. And then we used, this was with very young learners, and we used patterns with these little pom-poms I love, and they had different colors, and they need to pattern them and sequence and decompose because they had all of the colors mixed. And according to the hat the penguin was wearing, they had to decompose it, separate it in parts, and start associating the green with the green. Remember, this is planned for very young learners. What about this? What about penguins? Where do they live? Can you build your own igloo for penguins? Again, have a list of materials here. What about that? Can you build a raft for a penguin? Can you see that the question, the challenge is always there? So most of these ideas were taken from other teachers. That's why you have the site there. And the idea is, I strongly believe in teachers sharing and creating together. So think of how your students can work together on this. Did you know that when penguins dive into water, they do not get wet? Because their fur, in fact, their body is surrounded by feathers, and they are waterproof. So my question was to my students, how can we create a waterproof penguin? So what we did was to have our own penguin, like the one we have here, where it says Penguin Science. And what we did was to color it with some white crayons, which made it water repellent. So we needed to look for different strategies to make this. How can we create our penguins in a water repellent, waterproof way? So we tried different things. We tried some oil and the paper absorbed the oil. But when we got to the crayons and we tried, so this is key here. Give them the chance to explore, give them the chance to try, give them the chance to see with their own hands, not only with their eyes, what you do. Can you create an igloo with ice cubes? Yes, of course. Do you have ice cubes in your refrigerator? Yes. Do they have at home? I guess they do. So can we create these ice cubes? Can we create these igloos out of ice cubes and ask them to create their own? Yes. Can we play with a little penguin inside? Of course. Now, when I mentioned the Minecraft game before, I said giving directions. Oh no, I hate that. Now, can we think of a way for this penguin to go into his igloo? What are we doing here? We're asking our students to follow a path, the squares we have, but they need to follow it with these arrows. The idea is we're developing the computational thinking on them. And we can do this with our own bodies on the floor. You draw the different squares, or you can do it like this on a worksheet for them to put the different arrows. You're going to move the arrows, and what you're going to do is give them, go forward is the green arrow. Okay, how many go forwards do we need? So they are, and the thing is, we need to take into account our students are familiar with this, because whatever game they play online, and whether they are 3 or 4-year-olds or 10, they know how to do this. So we teachers need to grab this opportunity and start using it in class, in English. So we say, go forward, and we need 1, 2, 3, 4 go forward squares. Good. And then I need to turn right. What color is the turn right arrow? Red. So we place the red arrow there. And then we're going forward, but in another sense. So we're going to go right, right, right. What color is the arrow there? It's orange. Good. So we go one by one until we get to the end. When we go to the end, it says go, and we are going to do it. The thing is, we are programming with them. They don't know it. I don't know anything about programming. This is what I know, that I need to follow patterns, this is an algorithm I am creating for my students. The algorithm starts with the penguin on one end, and I start adding and adding and adding different things for them to complete the path. So we're going to try. What happens if I put a green arrow one after the other? Okay, 1, 2, 3, go forward. Oh, but I am stuck here and in another one. I put another one after that one. I put the right, turn right arrow, and we are going to follow each pattern. Can we do this with our bodies and we make it a whole experience? We are using our bodies to learn? Yes. Can we do this on a worksheet? Yes. Can we do it online? Yes. There are lots of programs you can find online to create this sort of paths. So they are using this computational thinking skill, this algorithm, for them to create sequences to follow. Talking about penguins, young learners love songs. So there is a beautiful song that I found on YouTube. We can't sing it right now. We're running out of time, but it is the Penguins song. And we're marching, and you say, Penguins march, and we go happily there. And they need to move, whether they are in the classroom, face-to-face instance, or like this in a virtual situation. They need to move. So teacher plays the song, and they move and copy the movements. We have shapes here. I said at the beginning, in the previous activity, that we were working with circles to make penguins. Now, look, here we have lots of circles, lots of different shapes to make penguins. Can we use some of these shapes? Because perhaps some are quite difficult for very young learners, but not for primary students. So we're dealing with different kinds of penguins here and different kinds of shapes at the same time. Do not stick to the traditional penguin. This is, again, we are talking about engineering with the tobogganing races. These penguins were made of toilet paper rolls, and they had a string from one side to the other, and you had two kids, and they were working on how to make this, because the question was, can we make a penguin, but not a real one, fly? Do penguins fly? So we are going again to factual information. How can we make this penguin fly, the one we made? So this is what they are doing. They are trying, and they have a string. And what can we do? Can it jump? No. So you stay here with the one end of the string. I stay here. We put it through, and let's see. And then we can have races and in teams to see which is the fastest of these penguins. The idea is give them the elements to make them try, to make them find solutions. So people, in a nutshell, there is this phrase I want you to take home. It says, Dr. Rabi won the Nobel Prize in 1944 for his work in physics. He was once asked, why did you become a scientist rather than a doctor or lawyer or businessman like the other immigrant kids in your neighborhood? And his answer was, my mother made me a scientist without ever intending it. Every other Jewish family in Brooklyn would ask her child after school, so, did you learn anything today? But not my mother. She always asked me a different question. Easy, she would say. Did you ask a good question today? That difference. Asking good questions made me become a scientist. So what's the point here? We are sometimes used as teachers or parents to give our kids solutions. We need to give them problems and help them realize they can solve them. So what is STEAM and why is it important for our kids? Because STEAM helps students ask questions, connect the dots. Have you ever seen your own students when they say, this is their aha moment. This is when they say, now I understand. We need to help them problem solve. We need to help them think creatively. We need to help them be innovative, to have their own ideas, to give them the chance to innovate with the elements, with the materials we provide. And this is something I also like. I like finishing my my presentations with some phrases. And in this case, I think this is crystal clear for STEAM. Some talents shine in the spotlight because some people are good at singing and you see them. Some are good at sports and you see them playing. Some are good at speaking and you see them. Some are good at teaching and you see them. But others are more subtle, more humble. Some are good at planning. Some others are good at creating, problem solving, nurturing, writing. Sorry, but I can't see empathizing, researching, and listening. So all of these talents are needed. Your talents are needed. Your gifts are valuable. You don't need a spotlight to shine. We all have the chance to shine. And this is key when you are a teacher. You need to believe this with your own ideas so that you transfer this into your little ones, into your kids. So people, thank you very much. Thank you for making this possible. I want to thank Pearson. Leave the presentation for a little bit longer, please, because I want to explain what this is. Can we have the full screen? Thank you. You can follow me on Instagram as Plan Up Education. You can scan this QR code to get there. If you want to have this presentation, you can also write my email address and write an email to me if you want to have this presentation and the links I used to make this possible. And now, yes, I would like to thank SBS because SBS was part of my teaching training college. SBS opened when I just started my teacher training college in 1996. It started in Buenos Aires. So thank you, SBS Librerías SBS. You are part of all of my teaching career. Thank you, Pearson, for making this possible, and thank you, Icpna, for this too. Thank you, teachers, for being there. And now, yes, I am all ears if you have any questions or anything you would like to say.
So thank you so much, dear Eugenia. So for your great presentation, it was an excellent topic. So we have seen many comments about your presentation and some questions that we can respond. What do you think about?
Great. Go ahead.
Okay, let's see with the first question. So the first question is, let me see. A moment. So how much time is necessary to deliver the material or information to STEAM?
In order to work with STEAM, the first thing you need to know is you need to organize your year. If you're planning to have STEAM in your everyday lesson, that is impossible because you need to deliver your English lesson at the same time. The idea is to have an objective. If you want to have a STEAM course, you can have every day a 30-minute lesson devoted to that. If you want to have, this depends on the kind of school you work at, whether they have English every day, whether they have English twice a week, once a week, and the length of your period, your lesson. But you need to take this into account before the year starts. STEAM is very attractive for students. In this case, Pearson is presenting their own books where STEAM is introduced, and you have the whole lesson, the whole unit, and one lesson in each unit. So that is ideal. What you are doing is giving some STEAM every single unit you have, and this is going to help you organize your school year.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. So the teacher asks the same question with only one, but I reduced that. So thank you, I agree. Let's see the second one. Pay attention for the second one. Can you provide some websites that we can create our own material?
What kind of, I don't know what kind of own material?
So your presentation, you show amazing material. So the teacher asks you maybe exists a specific website that we can find this kind of material.
If you ask me, if you send me an email or you contact me through Instagram, I have a list of these suggested sites to share with you. So no problem there. I can share them later. I do not have it handy now to share.
Okay, and the last one, what strategies can you apply when you deliver STEAM in a class?
First of all, you need lots of patience because
every
the younger,
teacher needs that.
yes, but you need to know what you're about to do. The thing is, the younger they are, the more impatient they get, and they want to touch everything. So you need to teach the rules, not strong rules, but to come to an agreement with your students on what you're going to do. You need to allow them to touch, because they get excited for touching because they are not used to touching the teacher's material. So that's key. They are going to be part of this. So you need to have the elements on the table, but to set clear agreements with them. First, I am going to show you. So all the elements are here. Then we grab together, but we need to pay. So I think this takes practice and training. So coming to the class with lots of amazing elements is going to catch all of their attention, of course. So they will for sure want to grab everything. The younger they are, the more difficult it is. So this requires training and patience for them to get used to. And now once they see that they are part of this, they will absolutely adore it. And you too.
I follow that every state that you said, sincerely. So thank you to be here, dear Eugenia. Thank you. I appreciate every moment that you share your information with us, with the all teacher that this TDC International 2020. So I appreciate your time that you can share with us. So thank you so much, and see you the next opportunity.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for the comments. Thank you very much. So thank you again. I hope to see you soon in Peru. Not online.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. So now pay attention, guys. So very well, we are going to introduce our second speaker. Yeah, this morning, obviously. This is now international speaker, Débora Dichiara, with the theme Redesigning Education for Successful Remote Teaching and Learning. Débora Dichiara graduated as an English teacher in Rosario, Santa Fe. She holds a postgrad degree in marketing, and she's completing her study in ICT at the UTM, en Licenciatura Tecnológica Educativa. This is las siglas. She's currently taking a course of the social and emotional learning. She has taught English to young learners, adolescents, and adults for more than 10 years, and delivered drama courses in English for adults. She has worked as a sales educational consultant for Pearson for more than 6 years. Welcome to TDC, Débora.
Hello, Jonathan. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this great invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today. And as you were saying, our topic for today is redesigning education for successful remote teaching and learning. And first, before we start, I'd like to say that I'm reading your comments here, and I'm going to ask you for your collaboration so that we build, construct knowledge all together by reflecting on how we teach remotely, what scenarios we suggest to our students, what strategies can we use with our students. So this is an invitation for you to share your comments and to say whatever you want in the chat box. I'm reading your comments here. So I wanted to start with this reflection at the beginning, and I decided to leave it in Spanish for all of us. The stone and the man, okay? So it says, it goes, el despistado tropezó con ella, el radical la utilizó como proyectil, el emprendedor construyó con ella, el campesino cansado la utilizó de asiento, el esclavo le compuso un blues, Drummond la poetizó, David la utilizó para derrotar al gigante de Goliat y Michelangelo la sacó la más bella de las esculturas. So, as you can see, in all cases, the stone is the same. So, we as human beings face different situations, but sometimes we come across same situations and we react differently. So I was thinking about this because in March of this year, coronavirus reached Latin America, okay? And so soon we had to leave school, we had to start teaching remotely. Our students had to start learning at home with help of parents and relatives. And so Zoom became our best friend, okay? So this has been our stone, and each of us did what we could. We reacted in the ways that we could, and that was okay. But okay, families started saying that they were exhausted being homeschooling a 6-year-old and 8-year-old for 1 hour and 11 minutes. Teachers deserve to make $1 billion a year or a week. Do you agree with that? I think we all agree. They are difficult times. Here, Zoo, 31 years old, homeschooling her kids for the last 5 days. Great job, Zoo. Keep it up. Okay, so that's how they are feeling. And it's okay. But what about us? How are we feeling as teachers, completing reports, designing tests online, trying to use printed books and platforms and games online? We thought it would be like that. Other people may think we're just sitting at home, teaching our students, but we feel exhausted as well. We had to design, plan our lessons, or learn new tools, new ways of teaching our students from one night to another, okay? So we did what we could. But I think this has been a very special year, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to stop during summer and think and reflect. Why don't we take this crisis as the great opportunity to redesign virtual environments, to redesign different environments, learning environments, okay, for remote teaching and learning, but even for education as a whole, okay? Let's think about how our students are learning nowadays. Most of them, not all of them, have access to internet, to devices, but I think it's a great opportunity for us as teachers to reflect on our teaching practice, on what we suggest to our students, and to change some things. So I think the key is in innovation. And so I wanted to share with you, what's innovation? What do we mean by innovation? And so I brought this short clip that I would like to share with you. Would you confirm if the audio is okay? So it's always a pleasure to watch and listen to Freddie Mercury and Queen. And I believe he and they were very innovative for their era, okay? Why? Because they thought about the audience. They made the public parts of their show, okay? They invited the audience to sing, to make the chorus, to participate. He thought about, that's why they created We Will Rock You, okay? So they made their audience parts of their show. They were not just on stage singing, giving a show for the audience, but they were a whole community enjoying the show. So that's what I thought. First of all, let's be innovative. Let's do things differently, and let's think about our students' needs so that all of us become part of the show, not just us as singers, as artists, but we can provide the design, the different scenarios, the different activities and ways for our students to learn, but they need to be part of our show and the most important part of the show, okay? So what is innovation? So we're saying he was innovative, but what is innovation? So here I brought an incomplete definition. So I would like you to help me complete this definition to have a clear concept in mind when we talk about innovation in the classroom. So innovation is the act of modifying or what? Would you help me? I'm reading your chat box there. So it's the act of modifying or changing a process by introducing a good changing, Jack is saying there in the chat box, by introducing a novelty, something new, new ideas, or it can be a new idea or what? Or methods to achieve, the last one is our aims. Okay, good, great. Monica gave all the words, thank you. So innovation is the act of modifying or changing a process by introducing a novelty or new ideas or new ways of doing something to achieve our aims, our objectives. So let's see, would you help me saying if these statements are true or false? So we know that it implies a novelty, changing something. So what about the first one? It implies a change, a modification, or a novelty. Would you say that is true or false? Great, it's true. Good, we have said. So we need to bring a change if we want to be innovative at school. We cannot go on doing the same things we have been doing for years because our students have different needs, have different learning styles and behave in a different way. It means inventing something new. What about the second one? Do we need to invent something at school or at this virtual environment to innovate? Not necessary. We don't need to invent something new. We can change the way, change the process, but it doesn't imply we need to invent something. It's the same as creativity. What do you think? Is it true or false? It's not true. It's not the same. We can be creative, but do the things in the same way forever, okay? So we can be creative, probably bringing, I don't know, a project and adding art, but doing the things in the same way. So it's not the same as creativity. And it implies using technology. Would you say that to bring innovation to your classrooms, do you need to use technology? No. We don't need to use technology to bring innovation to our classrooms. In fact, we will see that we can bring a lot of technology to our classrooms and still go on doing the same, having the same routines with our students. So first, I wanted to work with innovation. And I think today we are going to focus on innovation at 3 levels. At the level of we as teachers, what we do as teachers, at the level of students, how we should conceive our students, and at the level of learning. So let's get started. What about we as teachers? Here I will need your help as well, because these are the different parts of the puzzle. Okay, so let's redesign these virtual learning environments by bringing different pieces to our puzzle. So would you help me? What do you think? Is this statement true or false? Teachers are the most important source of knowledge. Good, thank you, Sol. That cannot be true. We should move from that. That was in the past, when we used to go to school and the teacher was the person who was more qualified, who knew everything. But nowadays, our students learn by using the cell phone, by surfing the internet, by having different sources. In the past, we could learn just at school, at university, at the library, by reading books, okay? But nowadays, our students have many more tools to learn. So we have to learn that we are not the most important source of knowledge. But will we disappear? No, thank God we will not disappear, because we have other roles. So how shall we position ourselves, especially in remote teaching and learning? So first of all, our role is key in designing scenarios. What do we mean? We need, first of all, to plan our lessons. What are our students going to do to learn meaningfully? So the way we design those learning scenarios is key. At the same time, we need to curate content. So select sources, content we are going to use with our students. And at the same time, the kind of tasks we suggest our students is key. So what are we going to ask them to do? Okay, what Eugenia was saying, asking questions probably, not giving them answers. So are we going to offer them projects, motivating activities where they can think out of the box and create something? Or are we going to ask them to complete just a grammar activity and that's all? So our role as scenarios designer is key, first of all. But at the same time, if we are no longer the only source of knowledge or the most important, we can act as facilitators and guides. And what does it mean? Of course, we can help them. Pearson has said that, okay? We can offer them inputs, which is a little bit beyond their current level of competence. So we can facilitate our students' learning by guiding them, by helping them understand key concepts, but at the same time, we can mediate between the content and our learners. And of course, we can also be motivators, creating games, bringing gamification to our classrooms, suggesting different projects. And our role will be key as well in assessments. And why is that key? Not just creating summative tests, and we know that, not just taking the final picture where I check whether they have understood or not. Okay, it needs to exist in the English classroom. Okay, we need to take tests, and of course students need certification to present different jobs at university. But it's also very important that we implement formative assessment to adapt our plans, our lesson plans, to adapt our teaching practice, to learn those concepts they are not grasping at all, to modify, to provide remedial work, or to provide stretch activities to those students who are beyond the expected learning outcomes. And of course, we have learned that we cannot be the only judges in the good sense, or scientists, let's say. Our students need to be able to self-assess, to reflect on their own performance. How is that? They need to be aware of the objectives, the expected outcomes you have as teachers for them, and they need to reflect whether they are doing well or not. I observed many lessons in Peru, and I remember a teacher who was very clear and precise about that. She shared the objective at the beginning. She said, okay, today we're going to learn about the past simple and when and how we can use the past simple. And at the end of the lesson, she asked them to reflect, and it was ideal because she said, okay, I think I still find it a bit difficult to use some of the uses of the past simple tense, and so they need to be provided with instances to reflect about their own performance. And at the same time, we can encourage them to reflect on their partner's performance, because in that way they will be learning about that objective. And of course, we as teachers need to be able to reflect on our teaching practice, okay? Is this, I'm doing with my students working? Or probably it's not working for my students. What can I improve? It's a great practice if you can ask a colleague to observe a lesson and give you suggestions. Okay, I think this went very well, but I think we can improve. I think you can offer impact at the beginning of your lesson. And I think you can finish your lesson with a task for your students. So reflection on our teaching practice is also key. So we have learned that we as teachers have key roles in designing scenarios, also in being facilitators and in assessment. What about students' role? How should we conceive our students? First of all, I would say that students need to be at the center of everything we do. What do you think? Is that correct or incorrect? I'm reading it's correct. And it's true. Of course, we have learned in constructivism that students need to be at the center of everything we do. We shouldn't provide them with the answers. They need to construct knowledge, and we need to activate prior knowledge so that they are able to make those connections. And of course, they need to be the kings and queens and of their own process of learning. But now we are learning that is not enough, because the world has changed, because we are in the digital era. And the cyberspace has changed the way we connect, we read information, and we construct knowledge. So we are moving from constructivism to connectivism. And what does it mean? It means that nowadays we are talking about intoxication there's so much information on the net that we are all the time consuming information, but we're all the time creating knowledge. When you upload a story by using Instagram, when you upload something on your LinkedIn profile, when you upload a comment on Facebook or a Twitter, or you participate in the Twitter threads, you are constructing, you are creating, and so are your students. So the way we behave every day in this era is different. So in connectivism, it's key not just that the student is at the center, but that they are able to collaborate with each other by connecting each other by using technology. So it's key that they learn to work collaboratively with other students by being digital citizens. And now we're going to explain. Let your students choose. What do you think? Should we let our students choose? Should we give them choices? Of course we should. I'm going to give you some examples of what I think of this era, which is a personalized era, anywhere, anytime. It was me, that was my favorite TV program, okay, in Tao. And I had to wait every day till 5 o'clock to watch it. And whenever I had tennis lesson or art lessons, I missed it. And I couldn't watch it later on. I had to wait till the following day at 5 o'clock. what about nowadays? Students have access to any TV program, to any soap opera, to any cartoon by just grabbing their mobile phones and searching in YouTube. And they can rewatch it many times, all videos they like. This was my favorite band, don't judge me for my taste, when I was a teen. Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were my favorite bands when I was a teenager. And so I had to buy the CD, and whenever I was using my discman and it ran out of battery, I couldn't go on listening to it, okay? And whenever I wanted to record a song that appeared on the radio, I had to be ready with my cassette to press the record button and to record my favorite song. What about nowadays? We have access to many different versions in Spotify. We can even create different lists. We can share those lists with our friends, and we can have access to that music anywhere in time. On the bus, when we are at the park, at home, by using any device. So we can choose and we can use it anywhere, anytime. That was my favorite film, The Beauty and the Beast. And I remember using my cassettes to be able and putting it once and once again. And nowadays we can choose. Okay, you don't have to buy that cassette. Of course, you need to have a Netflix subscription, but you can choose and you can watch films whenever you want by even using a tablet or a cell phone when you are traveling on the bus. I remember I loved taking pictures, and when I was in 4th grade, I traveled to a nearby city, which is Santa Fe, and I had just 28 pictures to take, and I used them all while I was traveling. So when I got to Santa Fe, I couldn't go on taking pictures because my role was over, okay? So that built my personality, okay? And our personality as teachers, because we were raised on a different era, okay? So we had to wait, we had to be patient, we couldn't choose. Nowadays, children take their cell phones, they take thousands of pictures, they edit the picture, they share the pictures on TikTok, on Instagram. So whenever they are not learning at school, they choose all the time. And they have the possibility of choosing and doing anything everywhere, every time. So whenever we ask them to be patient, not to choose, they cannot do it in class because they behave differently outside school. So that was a reflection. We need to let them choose at least something, okay? Okay, which is your favorite routine? How can we start? Shall we start by sharing our anecdotes from the weekend or with some music? Shall we bring a cartoon or a meme to start, or a joke? Okay, so of course you will be in control, moderating the situation, but you can let them choose something. And what about learning? This was one of the latest updates in Zoom, and with some colleagues we were wondering, well, why can't we imagine different scenarios where our students are learning? Why shall we bring a different design to Zoom to look like a traditional classroom? So in virtual teaching, is virtual teaching a different, let's say, environment where students can learn differently, or are we just virtualizing what we do at school, the face-to-face lessons? Are we doing exactly the same, but just by using technology? So I wanted to bring this part. Technology is a protagonist of the class. Technology shouldn't be the protagonist of our classes. We need to integrate technology meaningfully. I look at this teacher. He says, or he considers himself to be really innovative. He says, I can't stop innovating. He has an interactive finger. He has an interactive thumb, an interactive screen, a projector, a computer, but he's still doing the same as he did without technology. So that is not using technology meaningfully. Your role as teachers is key when you bring technology into your classroom. Why will we be using that tool, that technological assets? If not, we run the risk of this teacher who is just doing the same, but with a kind of TV, and so teachers are commenting. It's a bit uncomfortable, but it's the only way our students pay attention, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should redesign and change the way we teach and the way our students learn. And that doesn't mean bringing technology. In that sense, I wanted to offer you this SMR model developed by Débora, who talks about different degrees of classroom technology integration. And he says, think before you are using some technology in your classroom. Think, what is the role of that tool that you're going to use? What is the task? And so he talks about substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And he says, in the first two steps, the task is enhanced, but it's basically in nature the same task. So in substitution, technology acts as a direct substitute, but there is no change in the task. In augmentation, technology acts as a direct substitute, but there is some functional improvements. Whereas we should try to transform our virtual learning environments by bringing a task redesign, if we modify that task, or just redefining in a way that task and thinking that without that tool I'm using, it would be unconceivable. I'm going to give you some examples, and I hope you can help me. So, if we take this, using a word processor like words instead of paper and pencil, which stage, if you ask your students, okay, write your composition, and instead of using a pen or pencil, you said, okay, send me a file, a Word file, so write your composition there. So what do you think? What is the correct stage according to Dell'osa? It would be substitution, right? Because the task itself is exactly the same. But have a look at this one. If you make use of some functions offered by words, like the spell check function, to correct those spelling mistakes that students may have, it's augmentation, because there is some improvement, some functional improvements. So in both cases here, the tasks are enhanced. But let's have a look at the other two examples where we are transforming the task. So if you work collaboratively on Google Doc with other peers to write a paper and leave comments, you say, okay, you tell your student, design a presentation about dinosaurs so that they can practice the past and investigate about the different dinosaurs, and they work collaboratively on a Google Slides doc. It would be modification, because they might be at different locations and they will be creating something together by being not in the same place. But of course, we can do that if we meet and we design a poster, okay? Whereas, have a look at this one. Writing a blog, Facebook, or Instagram post to share work with the world and adding related multimedia. That would be an example of redefinition, because without those social networks, that task would have been impossible to implement, okay? So that's for you to think every time you decide to include technology, which level or what happens with the task. Is the task being enhanced, or is the task being transformed? So, focus on content, not on competencies. So, what do you think? Should we go on focusing on content or develop competencies? Of course, that was easy. We know that students can Google that content. We should move from content, and we should focus on develop different skills in students. We have been talking about 21st century skills, the 4 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, problem-solving skills. And it's very important that we go on developing these skills in our students, because we know that some of the jobs for the future have not been invented. So they will need to have those skills to create, to find solutions to those new problems that haven't been created as well, okay? So we need to focus on developing skills. And I wanted to bring you today some of the digital skills offered and presented in 2016 by the World Economic Forum, which are all these. So I wanted to decide with you together some of these skills that we can teach or we can try to develop in our students. So have a look at this one. The importance of screen time, digital health, community participation. Which is that? Digital security, digital rights, digital communication, digital emotional intelligence, identity, safety, literacy, or use. I'm reading your comments. So that has to do with digital use. So the importance of sharing and asking our students to reflect on number of hours. I mean, how much screen time do you spend every single day? Now our mobile phones can do that, can give us that number. And sometimes it's terrible because it says your number of hours have increased from this week to another. So you have spent like 5 hours checking your mobile phone. Okay, so working on the importance of digital use. What about that? Digital citizen, digital co-creator, and digital entrepreneur. What kinds of person are you on the internet? And that has to do with digital identity, okay? What it means to be a digital citizen, what it means if you are creating, and everything we upload on the internet cannot be downloaded, okay? So are you creating? Are you a citizen? Are you an entrepreneur? What about these digital rights? Freedom of speech, the possibility of expressing what you think, but at the same time of using citations, of privacy, what you are sharing on the net will stay there and cannot be downloaded. What about these skills? Computational thinking, content creation, critical thinking. What do you think? That's part of being digital literates. If we are digital literates, we can think in a computational way. We can create content. We can be critical thinkers about what we find and we come across on the internet. What about this part of this digital skill? Online collaboration, communication, and digital footprints. Everything we do on the web is registered. And there are many people checking our digital footprints for commercial use or to check the trends in the world. So that has to do with communication. Okay, and we are going to go with the last three. We need to probably work on awareness of being digital citizens who also care about emotional intelligence. We need to be emotionally intelligent, and that means being social and emotional aware, probably regulating, having empathy for others. We cannot say anything on the net just because we are just using our mobile phones. We cannot be rude to other people in Twitter. We cannot just behave in a way that may harm someone. And here we are going to work with security, the importance of protecting your accounts, internet security, mobile security, and of course, how they can be safe, how they behave on the internet, what they share, what they upload, the different contents they may have or they may come across on the internet, the risks of being in contact with certain people. So it's very important that we work on these digital skills with our students. And what about this? Try new ways of learning. We should try new ways of learning. A long time ago, Johnson and Landman were talking about learning by doing, by interacting, by searching, by sharing. But we need to go beyond that. And so we can implement, for example, microlearning. Are you familiar with the term microlearning? What is that? Is that learning for ants? Well, no, it's not learning for ants. But yes, it has to do with smaller units, with shorter time, and with technology. So when we talk about microlearning, and if we would like to implement microlearning, we need to bear in mind that it has to do with bits. So probably not with a complex topic, but that complex topic subdivided into different smaller units and shorter periods of time. Okay, so students will not spend 5 hours a day reading 10 books, but instead, with the help of technology, they may approach a task by just 15-day daily tasks and short tasks. So today we're going to share if you use an app, or there are many platforms which enable microlearning to be implemented. And what about multimodal learning? It has to do with new ways, and that has to do with the way our students communicate nowadays. And what we were saying, they communicate by using videos, pictures, by using TikTok, Instagram, emoticons. So the ways all of us communicate, not just our students, have changed. And that means we have moved from analog ways to digital ways. And so there are new ways of producing information, but also new ways of consuming. So the way that information circulates has changed as well. So nowadays we communicate with texts, but then with images, with audios. We send a WhatsApp audio, we send a video. And in fact, if we reflect, those ways of representing reality that we are using nowadays resemble much more the way we perceive the world. Because we perceive the world with sounds, with images, in 3D, okay? So, in fact, the way we perceive the world, we integrate videos, we associate elements, we talk as if we were in a net, okay? Because we start talking about the topic and then we go to another topic. So in fact, it's not that bad that we are using all these different ways to communicate. But yes, it's very important that we move from the linear way that we suggest at school. We cannot just be learning with books, just books. I love books and I prefer reading. I have to admit that. I prefer reading a tutorial than watching the video because I'm very anxious and impatient. But our students have different needs and we should provide different formats for them to learn. We cannot just focus on texts, okay? We need to offer them videos, audios, and of course we as teachers of English have been working on this for a while, but it's very important that in the task that we ask them, okay, if we want to practice for the oral exam, you can ask them to record a video, to record an audio. So today we're going to show you an example that you can use. And what about that? Learning nowadays takes place everywhere. So should we focus on formal education? Is learning taking place just at school? No. So nowadays we are meeting today for this great congress, and each of you may be at home or the park. So we are learning just from home, and we can take many courses from LinkedIn, from Coursera, Udemy, from MOOC, these massive online open courses, those courses by experts which are great. And we are not learning at university. We're not learning at school. So nowadays, learning is taking place at semi-formal and informal environments. So it's key that we bridge the gap between the formal education at school and that we bring informal environments for our students to learn. So I brought 3 of my favorite authors. And for example, Manuel Castells is saying that the student's world of learning is divided in 2 parts. And so we have to match. So he says that nowadays, students go to school to get a degree, but then they choose the internet and they choose informal groups to learn for real. So he's saying that they don't choose school, these formal environment subjects to learn. They watch these tutorials, this Soy Germán, YouTuber, and they learn, of course, the content they are learning there, it's a different aspect, different talk, but they choose different environments to learn, okay? So probably we should bring those semi-formal and informal environments to school. Cristóbal Cobo talks about invisible learning. So he says that outside the classroom, the revolution happens. It's that learning that we cannot see and that takes place. So our students come and say, I have learned 3 different words by using this game. And we didn't know. We have never played that game, okay? And so Burbules talks about this ubiquitous learning. He says that human beings learn everywhere, every time, and we learn because we have a purpose in mind. So if we don't know something, we Google it and we learn some content, or we learn. I had to do something at home, I had to paint, and I searched for a tutorial. So I learned how to change my top, I learned how to paint a sofa, I learned how, so you can learn many things in informal environment, just on your own, and everywhere, every time, just by having access to that information and the internet. So today we wanted to share with you this tool that may offer you a great opportunity to implement this ubiquitous learning, to offer multimodality at home, to position yourselves as facilitators, and it's My English Lab. So what is My English Lab? It's an LMS. It's a tool which works online with any device, so it works with computers, with mobile phones, with tablets, and it will enrich your learning, inform you as a teacher, and it will enhance this virtual learning environments. In which way? First of all, there are many activities, and most of them are connected to a book. So you will have videos, you will add multimodality. So your students will be learning and practicing not just grammar and vocabulary, but also listening skills, and they will have different contexts to learn, not just reading, okay, but watching videos. At the same time, they might hear this explanation, not just from the teacher, but from different sources. Remember, we are no longer the only source. So they might be more autonomous and listen to that explanation as many times as they want, repeat. So they may have their own pace. So that is also personalizing the learning. Because if I find that listening tasks are more difficult for me, I might try that task many times. All these activities are interactive, so students will not just be reading or watching, but also recording their probably pronunciation, their different tasks, answering different questions, choosing. They may have multiple choice or drag and drop or answering questions, and you as teachers will get all that information. Not correcting, okay, but monitoring all that progress. Being able to choose and check, okay, how was the first attempt for that activity for that student? And how was the last attempt? So you will be monitoring the student's progress, but as a facilitator, okay? They will be working autonomously. And of course, that information that you get on the gradebook will be really, really helpful for you to adapt, to do that formative assessment, to adapt your lessons, to check how well they are doing, but to tailor your lesson, the following lesson, to provide remedial work or stretch activities. So you can use My English Lab on any device, as I was saying, and in that way, your students will be learning autonomously. They will have all the practice in one place, but they might be able to implement that micro-learning. So if your students are adults and they are traveling, they don't have to be present in the synchronous lesson. Okay, I have 10 minutes till my next, meeting at work, and I can check my mobile phone and do some practice. Just 10 minutes, one activity. I don't need to spend whole Saturday afternoon working. So I can use my mobile phone, my tablet, and do that practice on that period I have. But at the same time, you as a teacher, as a facilitator, might be able to select the activities, the most appropriate activities for every single student. And so if some students need extra supports, they will be able to have more activities when you assign them. But if some students are not interested in developing their speaking skill, you might not assign the speaking tasks to your students. So they will be able to do that practice anywhere, anytime, and get immediate feedback. They will get that feedback and they won't have to wait for the teacher to correct the homework. And of course, there is evidence. We have done many efficacy reports that show that you can plan more effective lessons because you get those reports, those charts summarizing all your students' performance. You can personalize learning, you can assign remedial work, but at the same time, you will cut down time administration. So you won't have to correct all those tasks. You don't have to look for extra activities on the net. You will get all that information there for you. You will act as a facilitator. So, having shared all these reflections and thinking about bringing innovation at different levels, at the level of the teacher, at the level of the student, and at the level of learning, how learning takes place, how can we redesign, how can we innovate in remote teaching and learning? So, as a summary, remember, we as teachers, we should position ourselves as scenario designers and, which is that keyword, not as sources of knowledge, but as what? I'm reading your comments. Yes, I'm going to share, all these empty phrases as a summary to redesign our scenarios. And so we should position ourselves as, thank you, Marcela, as facilitators, remember. So it's very important. We are not talking all the time in class. Remember connectivism. They should be able to share and build knowledge all together, to work collaboratively. And of course, we'll be designing the activities, facilitating, mediating between students and content, helping them, guiding them. Good, thank you for the second one. We should integrate technology meaningfully. That is what Mariana Maggio says. She's an expert in educational technology. And she says, we shouldn't just impose technology. No, before you use technology, think, how are we going to use? Why is that going to redesign my task? Or we'll be doing the same, but with technology. Okay, it's more beautiful, but we won't just attract our students just by using technology. Then, as Burbule says, we need to focus on what kind of learning. He shares that concept of ubiquitous learning. Remember, we learn everywhere, every time. You take your cell phone, you can search, you can follow, you can even follow experts and learn by what they are sharing. I learned a lot on LinkedIn by what all these people are sharing about new research. So that is informal learning. We're not going to university. We're just going to congresses. We're taking up a course. So we should bring those new ways of learning into our classrooms. We should add interactivity, and thank you, Adam. We should bring multimodality. So remember, not just texts. We, as Gardner says, multiple intelligence theories. All of us learn in different ways. I prefer text. I said, I love books, but probably you prefer watching tutorials. Probably you prefer watching videos. So we should provide opportunities for all students. Offer a video, offer an interactive activity, offer a text, so that all of them learn. Offer drama activities, offer creative activities. And then think about every single student's needs. So that has to do with personalization, personalizing. And as you are saying there in the chat box, thank you, focus on competencies, not on content. So we have 5 minutes left, and I would like you to join if you can. I don't know if you're just using, but you just need to open a browser and type www.menti.com, insert that code 428463 and share. Let's do that self-assessment, okay? And I love hearing your feedback. Which ideas, which reflections are you taking today? So I'm going to open Menti here, and I would love to hear, in case you missed the code, it's this one. You should go to www.menti.com and use the code 428463. So if you can't, I'm going to read your comments in the chat box. Probably this is a collaborative activity as a summary of everything we can learn. And you can start sharing. Thank you for the hyperlink there in the chat box. Which ideas, which strategies are you taking today? Which reflections to implement in your virtual classrooms and to innovate in your virtual classes for remote teaching and learning? Any ideas? Okay, there we go. First one, innovate. Great. Remember, you don't need to create anything new, but you need to change something, the way you are doing things, to probably change the methods. Good. There you're saying that technology is very useful to apply in teaching. Think creatively, be innovative, be more interactive with your students. Thank you. The code is 428463. Personalized learning. Good. Interacting. Good. You don't need technology to have a great class. I agree. We can focus on developing these competencies and asking students to learn more collaboratively. Of course, we do need technology nowadays for remote teaching with coronavirus, but of course, you can innovate, and even if you're not using technology. Give clear instructions. Good. Skills that learners and teachers will develop. Good. Transform. Good. We need to transform the tasks, as Débora was saying. Good. Great. I love reading that you will keep innovating new ways to integrate virtual platforms and pages. Concentrate on making students be able to think about real situations. Good. Good. Fantastic. Different kind of resources according to different needs. Fantastic. And of course, if we use technology, doesn't mean students are learning. Good. Giving options, choosing what they like. Great. So thank you very much. And yes, now we're going to leave some minutes for questions or comments that you might have. We have 5 minutes. So this is my email address in case you want to get some ideas or some comments on what we have been sharing today. And yes, I will give time to Jonathan for questions.
Thanks, dear Débora, for your great presentation. It was an excellent topic. We have seen many comments about your presentation and some questions that we can respond. What do you think?
Yes, sure, definitely.
Okay, let's go. Let's see. Okay, let's see some questions. Okay, the first one is how to guide to deal with the all online distractor while they are in this process of learning new things.
Sorry, maybe how to guide students when they are in this process of learning new things?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we need to be very clear as regards instructions. And a good way is using a platform or a way in which you can communicate with your students like an LMS. So you organize your students, you give very specific instructions. And at the beginning of the lesson, I remember when I was at the teacher training college, I observed a teacher who would share all the lesson plan, of course, in a child-friendly way, so that they know what they will be doing. Just sharing the objective and some activities. Okay, today we will learn about the past simple in very simple words. And so remember, we will watch that video and then we will go on doing that activity. So being very specific, clear, and giving simple instructions, but not just in class, but also probably uploading on a platform or sharing the instructions in written mode. That can be.
Oh, that means clear instruction is the key, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so let's see the second question. Here we go. So the teacher said, I need my student practice their speaking or their pronunciation. Can you recommend any application?
Yes, I would say that, for example, well, for speaking, My English Lab brings a lot of practice for pronunciation where they can record themselves, listen to their productions, and then they can submit their work so that you can monitor. You know that speaking has to do with practice and practice specifically pronunciation. I know there are some apps for pronunciation as well that you can write and I can share the apps. And a great tool that you can use as well is Voki, is one, V-O-K-I, Voki, where they can create avatars and record themselves. And Flipgrid is another great app that you can use because your students can record videos and send you the videos. So of course you will need to monitor their work, their performance, but they can practice and they can record their productions as many times as they want, and they will be practicing speaking remotely, right?
So I see that you have a list about any application. So
My English Lab, yes, My English Lab is one option for pronunciation. Then I can share more apps, and then you can use Voki and Flipgrid.
Okay, that's good. Totally agree with you. So this is the third question for you. What are we gonna do with their hyper-stimulated generation? Can you tell us some strategy for them?
Well, yes, you know, it's very difficult, but I guess the key is there. Probably offering, changing, thinking about their needs, asking them what they need. That is very important, okay? And then probably offering variety, remember, multimodality, offering different kind of tasks, and also asking them to be part of the process, okay? For example, at university where I teach, the other day we gave students the possibility of co-creating the final task for the exam. So you know that students nowadays are creating all the time, so you can make them parts of this show, okay, as Freddie Mercury. So for example, you can design the task for the exam together with them. And in that way, you will be listening to them, to their needs. You will giving them a very important role. They will be the protagonists, and you will learn again as what they like doing, how they like doing. Of course, you will take the final decision, but I think the key is giving them a very important role, listening to what they need, providing different contexts, different type of activities, and asking them to do different tasks, okay? Creating, not just consuming information, but also producing information.
So, I mean, we can find a lot of material for different generation, for different situations that we can apply with the kid strategies for different ages, you know. So,
Yes.
Débora, thank you to be here. Thank you for this morning. So, it was a spectacular presentation for you and for the old teacher that they see right now. So, thank you for sharing your knowledge and information with us. So thank you so much and see you the next opportunity.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you, SBS. Thank you, Icpna. And thank you, Pearson, for letting me be here with you today. Thank you for your active participation as well. So hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Boom. I'm so happy. Goodbye. So, dear teacher, next, very well. We are going to present our third speaker this morning. We renowned international consultant David White with the topic Tips for Developing Active Student Engagement in a Virtual Classroom. David White, who has lived in Peru since 2001, has enjoyed an 18 years career as an English teacher. He has also worked as academic consultant in both Peru, Ecuador, for several international boot companies and distributor has been an oral examiner for the University of Michigan exams. During his 18 years of experience teaching, David has taught advanced English, ESP, methodology, academic writing, and international exam preparation for various prestigious institutions, school, and university. David has also been teacher trainer, mentor, and program coordinator, as well as presenting conferences as a workshop, both national and internationally. Today, David and his wife, Claudia, are at the managing director in the English for Dual Language Institute, as well as being the headmaster of academic school and bilingual IB school in Trujillo. David has also written more than 100 international published articles relating to English and teaching methodology. In addition, David is an editor, English Teacher World, English Interactive, creating games and challenges for the EF Classroom and English Teacher Board, social media sites, and both dedicated to sharing vocabulary, music, methodology, and articles with English teachers around the world. So, no more for David. Welcome, David, to TDC.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be back again. Of course, I was here last year. Of course, last year I had to travel by bus. This year I just had to walk to my office. So it's a little bit easier this year. But thank you to SBS. Thank you to Icpna for your wonderful invitation. It's such an honor to be here. And it's an honor once again to present my experiences and my ideas with teachers. I'm just trying to get my cell phone straight here. It's got a mind of its own this morning. Oops, there we go. All right, should I start? Can you hear and see me okay? I presume you can. All right. Today, I want to talk about something which many teachers already know about, okay? But the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because many teachers I know have spoken to me about this subject, because many teachers are now teaching in levels that they've never taught before. For example, in many schools, they have cut their teaching staff levels down. And we've now got some teachers who previously taught secondary school who are now, hello? 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 Ah, there we are. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. As I was saying before, one of the reasons I chose this subject today was because I've had a lot of teachers talking to me, because this year there has been a lot of difference for them. In previous to the pandemic, many teachers taught just secondary school or inicio. But these days, schools have cut a lot of their teachers, and we've got teachers teaching in 2 or 3 schedules a day. So teachers who would previously be teaching secondary school may now be teaching primary school, and in some cases, even inicio. And for them, it's a new experience. It's a little bit more difficult because, well, firstly, they're not used to teaching online, and secondly, it's a different demographics to actually teach a 5-year-old in comparison to a 15-year-old. So, as I said, there will be teachers who will know quite a bit about what I'm talking about today, but at the same time, there'll be teachers who will take a lot away from what I'm talking about. This year, of course, 2020, 2021, and however long this pandemic is, has changed education completely in Peru. And not just Peru, in many countries, school education. First of all, this year, the United Nations predicts there's approximately 1.3 billion children in the world who went into virtual classes. Now, this created a unique experience, because one day we were in the classroom and then all of a sudden we had to go virtual. For us here in Peru, there was literally little to no preparation time. I know in my personal experience at our school, our preparation time was just a few days. And of course, this was a difficult time. How do we transition? What are we going to run? What programs? How are we going to teach? How are our teachers going to teach? Of course, in a situation like that, there was no handbook. There was no guidebook. There was no rules. It was just a presidential decree. Okay, we are going online to protect against the pandemic. So all the different schools, all the different universities, institutes had to go from the physical to the virtual. And I suppose anybody who worked within the industry, especially during March, April, May, knows that it was a very difficult, tumultuous time. A lot of problems for many people. And of course, education in general this year, in the minds of many people, has gone into survival mode. Normally, education is something where we try to excel to be the best. We try to build the reputations of our schools, our institutes, our universities, for our expertise, for our level of education. But we've gone from that, in many cases, to just surviving, especially during the first 6 months. After 6 months, when they realized that this was going to go longer, of course, the government started making small changes, schools started making changes, they started growing, they had time to sit back, evaluate what they were doing, and improve the overall services to their students. And the other unique situation that we've had this year, something which most teachers have never had to face before, is parents in the classroom. Traditionally, parents take their kids to school or to the institutes and they leave them at the front gate. And they trust us as educational institutions, as teachers, to provide a good level of education to their kids.
Maybe
Now, especially in the case of young kids, especially in the NICL, and hello?
Sammy, I'm so sorry for interrupt. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I'm so sorry for interrupt, but can you change your device, please? Or do you have another one?
What's the problem? Tell me.
The audio.
Would it be better if I put on a headset?
Yeah, try, please.
Would that help or not? Okay, just give me 1 minute. Right, tell me how that is. Is that better?
Yeah, it's much better now.
Awesome, very good. This is a problem with using a cell phone and a laptop at the same time. Okay, very good. So let me just recap that page. This year, education went from physical to virtual. Just in school alone, 1.3 billion kids in the world studied online. In the case of Peru, in most countries, there was literally no preparation time, no handbook, no rules, no guidelines, just a presidential decree saying we're shutting the schools. We went into survival mode. And the most interesting case this year has been having parents in our classrooms. In education, there's always been this mystique where the parents take their kids to school and they trust you, they trust the teachers to educate their kids. This year, they've seen us and they know exactly what we do. And this has caused a lot of evaluation by parents and judgment. It's caused a lot of stress for educational institutions, teachers, administrators, etc. So, but it slowly got better as the year has progressed. So, today we're going to run through a few things. And at the end, we'll answer questions. All right, first of all, student engagement in online classes relates very heavily to student reaction. In an online class, the students have to be the center of the class. It has to be student focused. even more, I think, in a different way to what we normally do in the physical classroom. One of the problems you often hear from parents is my daughter or my son put their hands up, they want to answer questions, and they're not engaged. This is a problem. And this, from my experience, for some students, especially those which are more enthusiastic normally, can sometimes dampen their enthusiasm for their classes. So we have to make sure that we always engage all of our students so that we get a good positive reaction from all of our students. Some teachers I've seen have a habit of interacting with mainly the most positive students rather than with the students who are less interactive, and that can be problematic because the point is we have to make all of the students equally contribute to the class. Let's look first of all at our youngest learners. This has been the hardest thing this year, especially in the inicial, where we have kids with 3, 4, 5 years of age, and low levels of primary, 1st and 2nd grade. These these are kids that need constant attention from an adult. Normally in the classroom, they have constant attention from the teacher. But this year, the parents have seen what it's like to be a teacher. You hear comments, you're not engaging my child. My class is not physical enough. My daughter does not want to sit still. My son is running all over the house. So the parents have seen what it's like, first of all, to be a teacher. But secondly, this has put some stress into the household, into the families, because as the year has progressed, in many cases, mothers have not been able to return to work because they're having responsibilities to the education of their children. And when this causes problems in the house, of course, this creates problems for the children and also for the school or institute. So we need some certain things when it comes to engaging young learners. First of all, I always suggest starting the class with a chat. Engage the student. Talk to the student. How are you today? How's things going? Try not to get too personal. One of the problems with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds is they will tell you if mummy and daddy are arguing or whatever's happening in the house. But starting with a chat is a good idea. Starting with a song as well, something like that. Know your students. Know your students really well. I know that in the physical class, we generally know our students, especially the younger students. We know the parents because we see them every day. We know the students because we're with them all day. But in the virtual class, we've still got to take that time to connect with the students and, of course, the parents. This is very important because one of the secrets to teaching young kids is having that bond between the teacher and the student and the teacher and the parents. This year, I've noticed that parents want the teachers to understand the difficulties that they're having with their children and to sympathize. So by knowing your students, knowing your parents, understanding their situation and sympathizing helps a lot with that relationship between the teachers, the students, and the parents. The other thing, of course, to use a lot of is props. A lot of teachers do this, but as I said earlier, I've had teachers who normally taught fifth grade, sixth grade, or secondary school who are now teaching inicio. And they have no idea about how to use puppets or make masks or wear funny hats or things like this. These sorts of things grab the attention of the student, which is very important. The student needs that visual stimulation. Music, stories, songs, have the kids singing, reading interesting stories, playing music while they're doing activities, things like that, that keep the kids' attention attracted to the class rather than what's happening in the house. Because part of the problem with kids, especially young kids, is they have a short attention span. They could be watching you in the class and all of a sudden there's a noise in the house or mum's cooking something and that takes their attention away. So it's something that keeps them paying attention to the class. Keep activities short. Unlike older kids, young kids have a very short attention span. They lose interest very, very quickly. So if you have a 40-minute class rather than a 1 40-minute activity, if you have a 1 40-minute activity, break it into different sorts of sections. Include music, worksheets, videos, chatting, things like that. Imaginative reading. I'm going to show you something in a minute, which I do with the students in the school. But I like the idea of introducing reading to young learners. I learned English as a young child through reading. That's how we learnt in my country. That's how they still learn in our country, is through daily reading. So reading is a good thing, reading to the students. Or it's difficult to get them to read, but reading to the students. And of course, through the use of arts and craft. Have them paint, have them draw, something that's going to attract their attention. Very, very important. I want to show you these pictures. When I'm normally in the school, something I always do with the youngest readers is I read to the kids. I have what we call reading corner. I do this every month. I get one of the other teachers, a friend of mine, and he dresses up as a character from the book. For example, in these 3 photographs here, they're reading a book about growing bean seeds in plastic cups. Now, this is really very interesting for the smallest kids. In this particular photos, I think they're 5-year-olds in the inicio. So they're actually reading the book with a centrally focused character, and they're following the instructions of the book in growing beans. And I would visit their classes every week to watch how the beans grow, okay? And we would take photographs and send the photographs to the parents to show that this is what we're doing and they're growing. But this year, of course, it's been a little bit different because we couldn't read to the kids face to face. So this year, during the online classes, I've had the reading corner where we actually read stories to the kids directly online. Now, if you have a look at the picture here over on the left-hand side, you'll see there's a funny-looking mask with red glasses. That's me, where I would dress up myself as a character from the book. In this particular book, well, there's 2 books here. The first one, Healthy Helen's School Science Project. I write these books myself. I know there's many books available, but this year I wrote books specifically that relate to studying online and the situation that the kids face, all right? Because I wanted them to learn something about online life. I wanted to address issues that the kids were suffering. So when there was a situation, I write a book about it. And I write a book a week. It's normally about 30 pages with illustrations. And I read it to all the different levels. Now, in this particular one, the first book is called Healthy Helen's School Science Project. Healthy Helen is a character I designed. I write about her every week for first and second grades. And in this book, she did a science project where she grew beans in recycled soda bottles. And all the kids at home had to get a soda bottle and put the beans in. And then each week we would look at the beans. After a month, I bought in a second book, and that was called Healthy Helen's Feeds the World. And in this particular story, Helen falls asleep in class, gets sucked into a vortex, and she goes to a magic world of giants where the beans, which all of her friends had grown into enormous beans. And she flew in a magic aeroplane that was up in the sky, and she delivered beans to people all over the world to feed healthy food to the world. Now, all these sorts of things have subliminal messages in them for the kids, which are important during the quarantine. I do other ones such as virtual trips. We go to Africa or different parts of the world where we teach them about animals. We also talk about things like where do vegetables come from, because for our youngest kids, they think they come from the supermarket or the market. And in the story about basketball, we talk about pocket money, where she does extra chores around the house, takes on responsibilities to earn pocket money to buy her own basketball. That story was quite, went down very well for the fact that a lot of parents were busy teaching or working online themselves, and they wanted things for their kids to do in the house. So we worked a lot this year on responsibilities in the house, chores, things like that, where the kids did something and earned something, whether it's praise or some monedas, to be able to benefit their lives. So each week I write a different story. Sometimes I wear a mask, whatever. The whole idea is to bring different sorts of messages into the families, into the house, into the students, to help them to get through the pandemic. We have a lot of really good books available on the market, of course, but this year has been a bit different because we've had kids facing a lot of difficulties, and all the kids are different. And I found that by creating my own stories, we've been able to address some of those problems by giving suggestions and solutions through the stories. And that's worked quite well. And a lot of the projects include art, where the kids make things or the kids wear masks. So it's been a lot of fun. Right, that's for our young learners. Let's have a look at our next level, which is secondary, institute, and university students. These, of course, are totally different to our young learners. I've done the next part of my presentation here where you can screen share. You can take screenshots. I've put everything on the screen for you. Today, we need to bring students real world into the classroom and to use this as a tool to base many of our classes upon. This is something we've always done as teachers, but it's become much more important now in the virtual classroom because the classroom has become their house. Whether we teach them something in their kitchens or in their lounge rooms or their bedrooms or on the roof. We need to find out what our students like, what their interests are, and of course, what their expectations are. I know often, well, generally speaking, education is prearranged. This is what we teach, that's it. But something I believe in very much is that students are not beholden to us. We are beholden to our students. They pay money to study with us. They are our clients. Therefore, we have a huge responsibility to give them what they want. Of course, we must maintain the basis of what we're teaching, but during online classes, I think I found it to be very helpful, especially in our own institute, to find out what the students want. What do you want to learn? How do you want to learn it? Give me ideas. And then we create classes based around their ideas. And it works out very well, both on the level of teenagers or adults. We have meetings, questionnaires. For school, you talk to parents. In the school, we have meetings every month or every 2 months where we get feedback from families. And in our institute, well, we talk directly with the adults, students, or with the parents of the children who are studying with us. And then, of course, you take that information and from there, try to create the foundation of what your students want to learn and adapt it to what you have to teach. And that way, you're going to find that your students are going to learn a lot better because they feel that they have an input into what they're learning rather than being dictated to. Include students' interest and passion. If you want your students to be happy, that students who are enthusiastic about coming to class, then the principle is to include their interests, their hobbies, anything that they're passionate about. Football, movies, television shows, something like that. We often use, in the Institute, we use Netflix or Prime, Amazon Prime. We can watch a television show for 20 minutes or part of it in sections, and with that, we base that for teaching, learning, or revision of grammar, things like that. We also let students to choose their own books or materials. Personally, as a teacher, I teach B2 to C2. The majority of my students are professionals or teachers preparing for international exams or for study in foreign countries. So I like to choose, I give them a selection of books to read and I let them choose the book they want to read, and then I create the activities based around what they want to do. For our younger learners, we can include things like hand puppets. These are very good for students who are reluctant to speak. It's quite amazing how a student won't talk, but you put a puppet on their hand and the puppet will speak. I've seen that many times this year. Some people find that difficult to believe, but it's actually true. I've seen cases where the child moves away from the screen and you can just see the puppet and the puppet's talking. I've seen that with reading out aloud. And it's a great way to overcome their shyness to improve their fluency. Have a show and tell. Get the kids to show you things in their home, their favorite toys, their favorite book, something like that. And of course, getting the students to create videos, video presentations or PowerPoint presentations about subjects that relates to their life, their interests, something like that. This here are some pictures from our institute. Our institute does just private classes. We have a team of 10 teachers. And so they're very personal. Our classes are either one-on-one or small groups. It's not like a general English program. So we're very flexible. We're able to adapt. This particular one is one of my favorite teachers, Gabriella, and the student wanted to learn how to make bread and butter pudding. So it's very easy. Laptop, kitchen, make bread and butter pudding. And it was all done in English. And then the next weekend, the next class, the student had to cook the same thing live in the class. That was a junior student. She's, I think, 11 years old. And it's a lot of fun. The use of puppets. That's actually my wife. She teaches everything from children through to C2. She does a lot of teacher training, but she does a lot with puppets, dolls, things like that, especially with younger children. Also with adults for grammar, she uses puppets for grammar. We find it has a lot more success than just doing something on a board or a PowerPoint. Using puppets to back up what you've taught makes it a lot clearer for people to understand in the virtual classes. Even whether it's an adult or a child, we find our students learn grammar a lot better when two puppets have a conversation. Cooking. I love to cook. I cook every day I cook, and every weekend I cook everything. And we often do a lot of cooking classes online with our students. This year we taught cooking online to an online gourmet school in Lima. And we did cooking classes just like this, but we also do them with our students. It's a great conversation activity. We cook or our students cook, but it's a more interactive way of teaching. Plus, I get something to eat, which makes me happy. Student input. This is very important too. The days of an education institute being particularly, or just from the point of view of the institution or the teacher, has gone, thank God. Today, we are responsible to our students. We're living in a world where our students know all about the world. They have a voice, they're intelligent, and they demand to be heard. And that's something which I agree with immensely. Students don't want to just sit back and listen anymore. If you watch online classes, and I watch a lot of them, if a teacher does a lot of talking, students turn off their cameras or they're not paying attention. Whereas if the students are engaged and they're giving you input, then they are more likely to want to contribute to the class and be an active part of the class. Give students descriptions of objects that need to be achieved. Talk to them about the class. Ask them how they would like to be taught. Even teenagers, ask them how they would like to be taught. Now, obviously, we can't do everything that every student does. But I find that if you incorporate 2 or 3 ideas from students throughout a month, then that helps a lot, because the students feel very proud that the teacher actually listens to them and takes notice of what they say and includes it in the class. It really does help to engage the students, because rather than just being a 14-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid who has to sit there, has to listen, has to do what the teacher thinks is right, then you've got kids who are doing activities based upon what they want to do. And it really does work very well, very well. Imagine how the students will feel when you use their idea. I've spoken to students whose ideas we've incorporated into classes, and they feel very proud. They feel very proud that they were chosen. They feel very proud that their idea was taught to their friends, and they feel very proud when they see their friends interacting. So ask for your students to give you input in their classes. Materials. presented to the students. Every student in your classroom learns differently. No two students are the same. I think we know that in the normal physical class, but in the physical class, when we're walking around, we can manage it a lot differently to how we manage it today in the virtual class. We can't walk around the computer. We can't stand next to each student. So we have to think of ways to engage those students when we can't actually physically be with them. So we have to learn about our students, understand our students, their needs, and then integrate different activities as a way to enhance their enthusiasm in their class, to enhance the engagement. Do this by investigating different methodological approaches and themes. Don't rely solely upon books. Use the book as a foundation, but then, like I said, get input from your students, use objects in their house, use subjects from the book and get them to use things in their house for show and tell. Use the book as a foundation for students to make videos, things like that. Don't be old-fashioned, don't be passive. It just doesn't work in online classes. The days of the teacher dictating and expecting results just doesn't work. Incorporate games, incorporate music, presentations, projects, challenges, any other activity that nurtures their creativity and especially their enthusiasm. One of the big problems we have today is while the students are online here, they often have a cell phone next to them and they're able to play video games. And if we don't attract their attention, they're going to be playing video games. And that happens a lot. They'll turn off their camera. It's difficult to get them to turn it back on, and they will be on their cell phone. And I believe in many cases, this is because we as teachers are not engaging the students. We are not elevating their level of enthusiasm. We are not feeding their level of creativity, okay? This is something we have to find. This is the key to our success. When we let our students be creative, we give them a voice, they will always be far more successful. Kids are human. This is something I learned a lot this year because I've spoken to a lot of families. For student engagement to be 100% successful, then we need 100% of our students engaged in the class. We can't come through this pandemic with students at different levels of preparation, because at the end of this, they're going to go back to the physical class and we can't have holes in our education. We can't have those students who learned a lot and the students who learned a little, okay? We have to try very hard to engage no matter who the student is or what problems they present to the teacher. Students are just like us, just like adults. And this is something we forget. They feel pain, emotional and physical. They feel sadness, they feel disappointment, confusion, anger. They have all the emotions. And often when they're teenagers, going through the change of life, they don't know how to handle these. And this is a demographic in the classroom which it can be difficult to handle. We need to treat our students as humans. We need to understand the problems that they're going through. We need to adjust the way we teach for this. You know, we got students at the moment who are living in single parent families, or their fathers could be in the mines and unable to get back to their families. There's a lot of cases this year of domestic violence. Of course, we have normal problems, families with drug problems, alcohol problems, physical abuse, things like this. These create unique problems during online classes, because normally the kids come to class and they're away from the problems of the home. This year, they're in the problems of the home 24 hours a day. And that has created a unique situation for teachers and a very difficult situation for our students, because they haven't had that opportunity to escape from their reality. We need to keep in mind as teachers that this affects our classes, and sometimes we need to talk to our students. The teacher's reaction. This is really important because, as I said before, during the quarantine, many students are suffering from family problems, problems in the home. And these students at school, especially the teachers, become the target of the frustration of the student. In their home, they can have a lot of problems. And when they get online, they often release that frustration to the teacher, to the school. Sometimes mothers will take their frustrations out on the school because if they have problems with their husband, they can't take the problems out on their husband. They will take them out on the school or the teacher. This is something that we need to understand. It's not personal. We need to manage this. We need to understand this. We need to have understanding. Kids, families have pent-up anger. And for the classroom to be smooth, to run smoothly, and for us to educate, we need to make sure that we understand this and we address it. No, we are not psychologists, but we are humans. And as I said before, children like us suffer problems. Think to yourself, how do I solve these problems? Try to adapt that solutions for your students. A shoulder to cry on. This is something I've always done. People have always spoken to me about problems in life, and I always listen and give advice. This year, I've heard a lot more than what I've ever heard before, I suppose. But I always give my students and my family an ear to listen to and a shoulder to cry on. And I think that's very important, because this year, the relationship between student, family, teacher, institute has probably never been more important than it ever has. Students, families have felt isolated and alone. They feel the world doesn't understand them, my school doesn't understand, my university doesn't understand, but they need to realize that you do understand. You can't be too busy to take the time to listen, and you can't be too busy to give suggestions, because when you do, you're gonna create a bond. When somebody comes to you with a problem, because first of all you make them feel that they can talk to you, then you're going to have a bond with that person. They're going to think, this person knows my problem, they know the problems of my child, and they understand. Now, even if you can't help them, just the fact that you know and understand helps them a lot. Kids these days have built a shell around themselves, and it's important for the teacher to be able to break through that shell and to get straight into the kids and to find out what's wrong. I have students contact me. I have students talk about problems. I have parents talk to me about problems. And this year, I think I've heard more problems than I've ever heard in my whole life. But at the end of our conversation, there's always this feeling of calm, because they've released that pressure. So we need to have that ear for them to listen to and a shoulder for them to cry on. Very important. Responsibility. Allocate responsibility. if you got a great management tool, which I've always used as a teacher when I taught in larger classes, was to get the students who were problematic and to give them some sort of responsibility in the class. Okay. Now, that's a little bit more difficult in the virtual classroom, but it is possible. It depends on you as a teacher, what you're teaching, how you teach, your methodology, etc. But where possible, try to make the students which are a little bit more problematic, give them some sort of responsibility. For example, I know of a case where a teacher had 5 or 6 bad students, and he created a classroom committee where he would sit and talk to those students about issues in the class and ask them their opinions. Now, often the issues were originally with those 5 or 6 students, but rather than pointing the finger at the 5 or 6, he asked them for their advice on how to solve the problem for the whole class. Now, prior to this activity, the students wouldn't participate. They had their cameras turned off. If he asked a question, they were very rarely in attendance. So this teacher, he actually is from Chiclayo, spoke to me and I made this suggestion. So he went back to that class and he created the committee of the students that were difficult. And they would meet once a week to discuss ideas on methodology, problems in the class, things that had happened. And then all of a sudden, those 5 or 6 kids became very proactive members of his class. They worked harder, they had their cameras on, and it all came down to the fact that the teacher respected them enough to include them in the group, to ask their opinion, and to respect their opinion. Also, praising. This became very important, to praise the students, using well done, I'm proud of you, excellent work, having claps, things like this. This helps to elevate the positive attitude of the students in the class, especially the bad ones, the ones who are having problems and things like that. But often we have students who never get a lot of encouragement in their life. And when they start to get encouragement, it becomes a little bit addictive. And they search for that encouragement. So they will do positive things. Give them a voice. I always believe in giving students a voice. Invite the students to contribute ideas and suggestions to the class. Give them positive feedbacks for their efforts. For many students, they often live in an environment where they are ridiculed on a daily basis, sometimes in their homes, or they're bullied. And to receive praise is often the best way to get them to become a positive member of the class. Well, that's my presentation. I'm going to have a mouthful of coffee now. Oh, that's better. Thank you. And we're going to have some questions, I believe.
Yeah, of course. So thank you so much. Thank you, dear Davey, for your great presentation. It was an excellent topic. We have seen many comments about your presentation and some questions that we can respond. What do you think?
Awesome. Yes, I'm looking forward to answering some questions. Thank you.
You know, Davey, now everything has to do with technology. So I heard amazing tips from you, so it was nice. So I suppose that we have that special strategy to apply your tips for every different class or every different virtual class. So let's start with the first question, David. Let me see. So the first is, how can we overcome the affective filter with a new student in the virtual modality?
With a new student. So you mean actually bringing a new student into the classroom who wasn't part of the regular school? Okay, well, I have experience of that because this year our school has received quite a lot of new students actually. Well, I visit my classes all the time and I ask the students how they're doing. We also have our teachers work with the students to make sure that they incorporate. We encourage them to talk to our other students in Zoom meetings. And also our psychologists work with the students. They visit them, they see if they're okay, if they're adapting properly, things like that. They visit them in their homes to see if they're okay, if they're adapting. It's not easy. This year, a lot of smaller schools have found it difficult to adapt to the virtual world. Not just the technology and everything, but financially. It's a huge, they've lost students. Many students have gone back to Manedu this year. Smaller schools, I think the government is predicting 2,400 schools will close this year. I've seen just around my area, I've seen 6 or 7 well-known schools that have closed. So students have had to look for other opportunities, and it's difficult because they miss their friends, their peer groups that they're used to. So I think a school has to, or an institute has to work very hard on a plan to incorporate them into their school. Each school is different. Our school, for example, we have Convivencia, which has like 5 people, and we have 3 psychologists, and they work very hard with our new students. But our teachers do, our students do, but it's not easy. It's difficult.
You know, step by step.
Yeah, step by step.
Okay, David, let's see with the second question. So how can we develop student engagement in the virtual classes? Do you have the exactly methodology, strategy, or maybe tip to tell us?
Now, I didn't get all that. You were breaking up a little bit. Just repeat that question again for me, please.
Okay, don't worry about that. So how can we develop student engagement in the virtual class?
Well, that is an interesting question. I've been, apart from what I normally do with my institute and the school, I've also been a teacher trainer for many years. I've been a visiting professor at the National University for teacher training for 11 years. And one thing I know is that teachers have a methodology. We have for forever, we've taught teachers how to teach in the physical class. How do I teach in the physical class? How do I engage my students? And teachers over time have learned how to do it. Teachers, for example, I'm in Trujillo, you're in PIURA. Many teachers, young teachers, they come to the Icpnas and they teach in the children's program or the regular program, and they learn how to teach. Now, all of a sudden, they're online, and many teachers have found it difficult and stressful trying to work out how to adapt from the physical to the virtual. I can talk about our experience at the school, at the American school. We have had a lot of workshops with our teachers. We have an academic team, quite a large academic team that works on discovering apps and programs which are suitable for online, so that we are able to support our teachers with ideas and support our teachers at all times. Also, for example, with mathematics classes, we invested in virtual smartboards, so that rather than just doing it in Zoom, we actually have specific whiteboards, virtual whiteboards designed for mathematics and science. I think it comes down to supporting the teachers and flexibility. The teacher can't, well, the average teacher can't do it alone without the support of the institute that they work for, the school, the institution. There needs to be flexibility. You have to keep an open mind. You can't be traditional. And you've got to be supportive of your teachers. Meetings, talk, share. I've tried this, I've done that. You can often find that one teacher has a problem is a problem that another teacher has found a solution for. By sharing, you can often resolve many things. But the most important thing from my point of view as the director of a school is to give the teachers flexibility, freedom, a bit of trust, and a lot of support. And I find that when you've got good teachers, they rise to the challenge, and they achieve it. This is the important thing. The first few months were difficult, but ultimately they achieve it, I find.
That's nice. Very good. No words. So thank you so much, David. Thank you to be here with us, and thank you for sharing your all information and knowledge with the all teacher here. So we are so happy to be here with us, and was a great presentation. Thank you, David, one more time, and see you the next opportunity. Okay. Thank you, David, for all. So thank you very much to the all speaker for their presentation, and to the all teacher who have connected to this morning. So it has a wonderful experience to be able to share that all information that we have today with the all college. So we're waiting for you at 3 p.m. One more time. Remember to connect it a few minutes before. We are also remind you that later we have two final presentations with two final speakers. So important, dear teacher. Remember also to obtain the certificates of attend. You must participate at the least 4 conferences at the 5 that we are offering in total. Have a nice lunch. We leave that motivated, and see you later, dear teacher. Thank you. Remember, I was Jonathan Peña, your host for today. See you in the afternoon. Goodbye.